Hey YouTube, welcome back to another episode of Comics and Stuff. My name is Devin and I'm your host, and today we will be talking about where to get your comic books graded if you don't live in the United States of America. This video is the fourth part in a six-part mini video series that introduces new comic book collectors to the world of third-party comic book grading. So today I'll be covering two third-party grading companies. One is Halo Certification and the other is the EGS, or the European Grading Service. So let's start out with Halo. I'll pull up their slab here. So I have graded a Darth Vader number 3, which is the first appearance of Aphira and her two assassin droid compadres, and it's graded at a 9.8. Now this slab itself is extremely well put together. It is one large hunk of plastic put onto another almost as large and thick hunk of plastic. These are not meant to be open. If just listen to this, it's not quite a CGC slab where I'm sure the knock sounds very different. The other one is the EGS slab. Here we go. Okay. Now this one is really cool as well. These are two pieces of plastic that are slid together, almost kind of like slid and locked, as opposed to put together like they would do at American third-party grading companies. Now we'll talk a little bit about Halo. Yeah, these are not meant to be opened. These, I mean, you would have to take a saw to it to get it open. This is very high grade, thick plastic. It's really cool though. It's probably the heaviest comic book slab I've ever held before. This thing is, really weighty. So just keep that in mind if you ever decide to get one, a comic book graded by Halo. As for the EGS, these are relatively lightweight, a little more comparable to American third-party grading companies. And in here I got the German edition of Spider-Man 129, the first appearance of the Punisher. Now let's take the camera down a little bit and get a little more in-depth about these companies. So starting with Halo on the right. Halo started up in 2014, just after CBCS. It was opened by Mr. Grant Adley, I believe is his name. And he is a comic book collector and enthusiast living in Australia. To date, he is the only non-American and non-Canadian contributor to the Overstreet Comic Book Price Guide. So he knows his stuff very well, and he's done an excellent job at really getting Halo certification onto the market and getting it well known with a lot of Australian and British collectors. So if you ever want to get a comic book graded, either in the country of Australia or the UK, Halo Certification is the place to go. They have locations and offices in both countries, and you're able to send it in. I believe they have a different pricing system when it comes to getting comic books graded. It's based off of just the value of the comic book, not the age, whereas other comic book grading companies have it by age and value, or just age. So this guy is any book that is worth between $1 and $750 Australian dollars, I believe, was 30 or 38 Australian dollars to get graded. Now this is just like a rough starter price. This is not the price for all books. It can vary. I would recommend checking out their website. You can Google it. As for the EGS, I know that a rough starting price is about €19 to get a comic book graded. Their website has a translation button, so you can get it translated in English if you're curious to checking it out. If not, they have a translator for all the other languages that they serve as well. So like I said, Halo covers Australia and the UK. EGS, they cover essentially everywhere else. So they do Italy, Greece, Denmark, Germany, Sweden, Norway, France, Spain, Portugal, books, or countries like that. Now, Halo uses just the regular Fischler scale, but if you take a look at the EGS label here, you'll notice on the right side there is the world grade, which is the Fischler scale 7.0, and then the German grade. Now, one interesting thing is not all the countries that EGS services have the same grading system. So I know for Germany, the highest grade you can receive is a 00+, and the lowest is a 4-. But in Denmark, it goes in letters from like NV to VM. So I'm not sure exactly how it works. It's explained on their website, but I figured that if anybody was actually curious, they would go check it out, because it's a whole lot of information. As for different types of labels, Halo doesn't have any sort of special label for qualified grade books or restored books. It'll just say restored. As for Signature Series, they do have a large Black Widow spider crawling across the label, and I think it's really cool. I've never seen a comic book company or grading company do that, so it's really unique just to Halo. And then as for EGS, they operate a little more like CGC. So these guys will have a blue label for their Universal, a red label for Restored, a green label for Special Grade or Qualified, and then or they call it the Special Grade, and then they have a Deep Gold for Signature Series. So that is it for these two books, for these two grading companies. Really nice slabs, really well put together, awesome construction, very informative websites. The guy who runs this, Grant Adley, is really easy to get a hold of, and he's very nice and very helpful. But that is it for this episode of Comics and Stuff. Make sure you tune in next week to the follow-up episode that will be talking about undesirable third-party comic book grading companies. But until then, make sure that you share and like this video, subscribe, follow, tell your friends about this. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or if I have committed any sort of cardinal sin, make sure that you let me know in the comments below. But that is it for this episode of Comics and Stuff. So thank you and Happy New Year's. I really appreciate anybody who has, tuned into all these videos and followed me around and seen what I have to say. So I appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a wonderful intro into 2016. Take care, YouTube, and we'll see you next time.